ಗೌಡ ಆರಾಮ?
ಆರಾಮ್. ಏನೋ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ.
ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಾಲ್ ಬಂದಾರ? ಸತ್ಯನಾರಾಯಣ ಅವ್ರೆ
ಸರ್ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ, 11 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು
ಹೌದಾ?
ತಾಲೂಕು ಆಫೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ,
Okay.
ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಆಯ್ತು
ಗೌಡ್ರೆ, ಹಲೋ
ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಸರ್.
ಗೌಡ್ರೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಹಾ
ಹಾ
ಕೇಳ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್, ಕೇಳ್ತಿದೆ.
ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದೇನೆ.
ಹಾಗೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಸರ್. ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್.
ಸರ್ GFGC ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ.
ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
August event. I also welcome Dr. S. Muralidhar, who has been chief mentor of our academic research group, and he has been the backbone for this 3-day workshop. I also welcome my fellow organizing secretary of this workshop, PG coordinator from GFPC, Devanagari College. Along with that, most of my faculty colleagues, academicians, researchers, they have also joined this workshop inaugural. And the resources for today's technical session. He has met 8 students and 8 more are also in their His research projects have been funded by UGC, DRDO. He has more than 62 research papers in most reputed national and international journals. So he has given 15 keynote presentations in most prestigious platforms of academic and research thought. So he has been also very keen and very administrator. So he has been professor and chairman of Department of Library Science. He has developed the post of director of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Board. He has been director of correspondence course and digital education of Bengaluru City. So then he also took the position of registrar of Bengaluru University and Bengaluru University. Presently, we are very fortunate to have him as our vice chancellor.
one of the important component for any developmental activities. One cannot expect any development without the strong support of education, and that is why education, particularly the higher education, is highly debating issue throughout the world. Our education system is undergoing a lot of change. We are living in the age of transition, age of change. Change is a part of life. Every period of time, we are experiencing a lot of changes. So similarly, the teaching and learning process, which are the two important components of education, has undergone drastic changes in the last several years. So hence, in spite of these kinds of problems, we have not taken backward step in discharging our duties of teaching and also research, but all the country and toward the world has chosen their way, their own alternative paths of discharging their duties. See that our students' community should not be kept out of academic mainstream. Our students should not kept out of the learning process. So we have to take all possible measures to carry forward our mission of teaching and learning process. Education is not only just a dissemination of knowledge, but more than that, education, particularly in the spectrum of higher education, in addition to disseminating the knowledge, we have to create the new knowledge and also cultivate various kinds of the skills. The development of ICTs, information communication technologies, have created a new vistas in all fields of activities. In fact, technology has created a great revolution by bringing into various types of innovative methods, tools, and techniques, both for the teacher as well as for the students. That is how, even at a very difficult situation like this, since from early days, we are adopting this, practicing this, cultivating the habit of using these new technological devices for teaching learning process. That's how we are all conducting the online classes to our students, in addition to delivering the appropriate content focused on that subject areas. So like that, ICT has made a great impact on higher education. So if you look at this world, it's undergoing a lot of transition process. Education has to respond properly to the needs of the society, more importantly, to the needs of the job market. Though a lot of discussion is there, education is for acquiring knowledge, but more importantly, if you come across the aspirations of any student, why they need education, everyone, irrespective of their socio-economic and political background, everybody answer is that I wanted to get into some jobs. That is the ultimate goal of every student where he pursue this education. If that is the case, how we at the higher education level, the colleges and universities, how we are training, how we are educating, how we are giving an opportunities for developing the skills, potentialities, and competencies suitable for the current day changing job market. We are yet to find an answer for a question that still there is a great gap, big gap between what we are teaching and what the industry is expecting. There is a mismatch between our education system and the job market. This gap has to be minimized, and that is why the government are also initiated a lot of new initiative policies like the national education policy, which is already in the pipeline for implementation. The government of Karnataka has taken a very big role. In fact, it is the first state in the country which has taken the initiative to implement this national education policy in letter and spirit. So this a national education policy, which is a policy of difference, it has proposed a lot of innovative, drastic changes in all segment, in all spectrum of our higher education system, including our curriculum, the structural aspects of our higher education system, bring in multidisciplinary characters in our teaching learning courses, giving a lot of opportunities for the students to move in tech domains, acquiring knowledge, and apart from giving an opportunity through our curricular system, developing varieties of skills among the students. And very significant change in our national education policy is to bring in culture of research at the undergraduate level. All these days, we used to talk about research leading to MPhil, leading to PhD, or postgraduate, or postdoctoral. After master degree, we used to talk about the research. But today, what is needed is that the culture of research has to be built at the early level. Even at the look at our secondary and primary education, there we can find some kind of culture of research. Our small kids are doing some research by taking up small projects, small assignments, referring various type of resources, looking at the internet. But very unfortunately, we are not built in the concept of research in our undergraduate courses and also postgraduate courses to some extent. Very few courses like recently the MCOM or MBA or MSW and other postgraduate courses, very recently they have introduced the scope for research through their master degree projects and dissertations. Realizing the importance of research at the graduate level, the government of India, Ministry of Education, under new education policy, they have proposed to adopt or to devise courses for research. So today's workshop on research methodology, the 3-day workshop, is focusing on postgraduate students. Our postgraduate students at the final year, it is in the 3rd semester or 4th semester, they have a dissertation or a project which is of research character. And research skills has to be initiated. That is the need of the hour. So the students wants not only subject knowledge, but also they require analytical skills, problem solving skills, communication abilities, interactive abilities. All these things are possible provided if you bring in some kind of opportunities for the students through research and innovation. So that is why the national education policy has taken the good initiative to bring in a lot of scope for introducing innovation and also undergraduate level. So one of the structural changes that instead of 3 years graduate degree programs, the 4-year graduate degree programs, where you can find tremendous scope for this research. So mentioning all these things, perhaps many of you know about the concepts of the national education policy. We are already late in equipping our students for research. Hardly except a few courses in the whole of our postgraduate courses curriculum, we never find any kind of a paper like a research methodology. So this research methodology module or a course structure has to be compulsory for all the discipline courses to give a foundation for developing research aptitude, learning various techniques and methods of research, acquiring knowledge about how to collect the data, identifying and also evaluation of various kinds of knowledge or information sources. And once the data is collected, how to analyze the data using various types of statistical and quantitative techniques, how to interpret the data based on the interpretation, recording the findings, recording the conclusions. All these kinds of knowledge is very, very essential. In fact, research is a part of every discipline, more in science or less in social science or moderate in commerce or management. So today, the higher education objective is also to address the problems of that particular domain of the discipline which are closely related to the society. So that is why to diagnose any kind of a problems, to address these problems, to understand these problems, the student has to learn various methods and techniques of research, and using appropriate research methodologies, tools and techniques, definitely they can resolve the day-to-day problems. So problems is a part of life. If you resolve one problem today, another problem, it is a continuous process. It is a lifelong process. So that is why research methodology, we should give more importance. We should go down the line, not at the postgraduate level, the down the line at the graduate level, just even below the graduate level, we have to expose our students about the methods of research, techniques of research, tools and techniques of data collection, and all other analysis, interpretation, and other kinds of things. Happy, and I congratulate the principals and other faculty members of these two colleges, the Government First Grade College, Doddaballapur, and also Devanalli, and also the Academic Research Group, Kolar and Dr. Muralidhar. They have taken a good initiative, and these 3-day workshop presentations, interactions will going to help our students. And I wish these all the technical sessions will be more fruitful, and definitely our students will get a lot of benefit and academic advantage out of this workshop. And I'm very happy to associate with this workshop to say a couple of words. And I wish this workshop should be the successful event. You all the best. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful words, inspiring and encouraging us to get into this initiative, and more so for sparing your precious time for our purpose and encouraging and blessing our students. Once again, I thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. T.D. Kemparaju, sir, for. Now, I'd
Thank
like
you.
to now I'd like to request Professor Shivshankarappa, sir, Principal, Government First Grade College and PG Center, Devanhalli, to speak few words.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I congratulate Academic Research Group, PG coordinators, and the two colleges who are organizing this 3-day workshop for the benefit of students. We expect similar programs for students in the future course. As rightly mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, the need of the hour, so presenting online programs for the benefit of faculty as well as students. I wish a grand success for this program. We expect more such programs in the future course, jointly by the sponsorship of the university as well as different colleges. We look forward for organizing such programs in the future course. I wish all the students to make use of this program to the maximum extent so that they can devise or they can learn more in research methods so that they can take up research in the future course. Thank you. Thank you all. And again, good luck for all the participants as well as organizers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Shivshankar Rao, sir, Principal, GFGC, Devanhalli. Now, as a token of formality of this inaugural session, I'd like to request Dr. Satyanarayana Gowda, sir, to propose vote of thanks. It will be followed by technical session of first day, in which Professor Bhagya GB, Assistant Professor from SDC College, Bangarpet, will be presenting her session on research design. Now over to Professor Dr. Satyanarayana Gowda, sir, to propose vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Indeed, it's my privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks for this 3-day workshop on research methodology. I thank our chief guest, Dr. T.D. Kemparaju, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Bengaluru North University. Dr. Kemparaju, sir, always supports and encourages all the academic activities in the university and other affiliated colleges. Thank you, sir, for your valuable inputs. I take this opportunity to extend my thanks to Dr. Murlidhar, sir, who is invisible guiding force for many teachers, students, and academic leaders. He is a mentor and motivator for many, including myself. He has been growing many youngsters as academic leaders. Himself is an academic leader. I thank for his great initiative to organize many such academic activities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gaudre.
Thank you, sir. I also thank Professor Srinivasaya, sir, for his support and encouragement to organize this workshop. Thank you, sir, Srinivasaya, sir, Principal, Government First Grade College, Dodbalapura. I thank our beloved Principal, Professor Shivshankarappa, sir, who is ethical and honest and always supports all the academic activities in college as well as outside fraternity. Thank you, sir. I thank Dr. Ravindra G. Pototi. He is an artist, great harmonium player. He conducted many concerts. I have seen in YouTube. Really, I felt very happy about your talent, sir. Thank you, sir. You are the instrumenter to organize this workshop. Thank you, sir. I also thank all the resource persons, Professor Bhagya, Sairam, Dr. R.S. Narendra, for their overall support and to organize this workshop. Finally, I thank all faculties, students, participants, and all other who have joined from different colleges. Thank you, one and all. Thank you. And also, I thank to Academic Research Group for their great initiatives to organize this workshop. Thank you, Anurag. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satyanarayana Gowda sir, for proposing vote of thanks. Now, with this, we come to the conclusion of inaugural session of this 3-day workshop. So after this inaugural session, the technical session starts. So on 3 different days, today, we will be having Dr. Sairam A. So who will share his thoughts, ideas on analysis and interpretation of data. On concluding day, that is on 22nd, we are having Dr. Narendra, so who will be giving his insights on report writing. Now, before the start of a technical session, I would like to give a brief introduction of today's resource person. Hearty welcome to you, Professor Bhagya, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Bhagya GB, she is working as an assistant professor in SDC College, Bangarpet. She completed her graduation as well as post-graduation from Bengaluru University. She did her MPhil from Madurai Kemparaju University, PG diplomas from Mount Carmel College, Annamalai University, and Madurai Kemparaju University as well. She holds a very promising and brilliant academic career. So she has been very active academically and participated in many programs, workshops, seminars, and she has been presenting papers. Even she has won awards for best paper presentations in several national and international seminars. That we have got such a really, truly resourceful resource person for today's morning session. She has been abroad also. She has visited different countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Japan to present her research papers in prestigious conferences and seminars abroad. And she has written many articles in research journals and periodicals. It is a matter of great pleasure to have Professor Bhagya GB for today's technical session. I hope my student friends, they will be truly benefited by the inputs given by our resource persons. I request all students to pay maximum attention and attend the whole sessions and make sure that they get maximum benefit out of it. And if at all you have got any questions, you can write the questions in the comment boxes of YouTube streaming, so which we will be monitoring on a continuous basis, and we will pass them over to the resource person. Now over to Professor Bhagya GB.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So can I share my screen, sir?
Please.
Yeah, yes. Sir, is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, it is very well.
Yeah. A very good morning to everybody. A good morning to the galaxy of intellectuals who are present here today on the virtual platform, and all the students who are watching it live on YouTube. It is an opportune time for me to interact and share my thoughts about the research. I assume and I presume that I'm still a student learning what is research is all about. So in the light of it, giving you a brief insight about what research is all about. And before that, I would like to thank both the institutions and in specific Academic Research Group, Dr. Muralidhar sir, for giving me an opportunity for with the quote, which has been given by APJ Abdul Kalam sir. He said that institutions and the country as a whole should support research and science. In the inaugural remark, our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bangalore North University, he articulated saying that what is the essence of research today? Research is quintessential today, which is very much need of the hour. And NEP also, that is National Education Policy, also emphasizes on institutions moving from degree awarding institutes to a higher level, that is moving to as research organizations, being a research institutions. So that there's a lot of emphasis that's been laid on research, and the culture of research has to be incorporated at a very early age so that there can be some contribution that can be made for the social good. To start off with a quote from Rig Veda. Rig Veda says that, let noble thoughts come from all directions. It is expected that the thoughts in case, not only in case of research, but also in the whole human living what we have, we need to take from the available resources and evaluate and move in the direction of the change. And in the same way, in terms of research also, we have to get the information from the different dimensions and evaluate the dimensions and see that how best we can fruitfully convert that into information. And research is defined as a body of new knowledge, something using of the existing knowledge, and to see that some creative way to generate new concepts, new methodology, and new understanding. And research is all about finding answers to the questions and solution to the problem. It is supposed to be scientific, it is supposed to be systematic, so that there is a search for the truth and exploring the unseen, and also to explain and predict about the phenomenon. So in the words of Woody, he rightly says that research is it covers what it covers in the ambit is defining the problem, redefining the problem, formulating the hypothesis, suggesting the solutions, and also to see that's making some application of the tools, and then trying to come out with the summary of findings, conclusion, and suggestion, and suggesting for the future what can be done in the later day. So they do say that if there is no research, there is no information. I meant NO. No research means no information. On the other hand, KNOW, no research means there is no information. So I'll repeat again, no research, no information, no research, and no information. So in the light of it, we need to ask questions in the process of doing the research. And while asking the questions, the right questions are supposed to be asked. And what is expected from the research for a faculty? It is adding up to the profile, adding up to the knowledge base. Along with that, it really gives you an elevated feel about there's something new, what you have come up with. The joy of creating something new, what you're contributing to the world. And there is also a possibility where we do also get the publications done. We can patent our publications, our innovations, what we are going to be doing, a new jargon, what we come across in the process of research. And also we can be a consultant to multiple companies too. And on the other hand, what is the benefit for the student? For the student, is going to be beneficial in the lines of not only for completing their academic requirement, but also curiosity that creates in the process of educating oneself and getting into research. It gives a different dimension. It creates a different personality for an individual altogether. So let's move ahead. So there is a picture that is there on the slide. I'll give you a few seconds just to go through this and come out with your interpretations of this or your opinions about this picture. Or anyone in the group, I meant in the Google Meet, can as well unmute yourself and you can answer if at all you're comfortable. Do I have to wait for some time? I'll move forward because I don't have any responses as of now. The picture is perceived from a different dimension for different people. Before I go ahead with this, there was we have been born with reading stories, hearing stories, and in the light of it, we also remember one story what we have heard in our childhood days. That is 6 blind men and the elephant. 6 different blind men, they touched the different parts of the body of the elephant and the way they described. One described it as the tusk, and he told something like a spear. The other told something, touching the tail, he told it is a rope. So each one has a different way of analyzing things. So that is from the different perspective what we see. And each one is right from their perspective. There is nothing that is wrong. So it is from the viewpoint of an individual that holds really good. So here I've just taken the analysis of this picture. If it is a philosopher analyzing what the picture is all about, he would interpret in such a way that saying that logically we could not say that they're crossing the road, as the ducks don't know what is a road all about and how do they really cross it. So that is how the philosopher is going to view from his perspective. Now, if it is going to be a scientist evaluating it, giving his opinion about this picture, it would be with this speed, what they are walking, and the width of the road, they'll be able to cross the road within 15 seconds. So that is from this scientist dimension, how it's going to be analyzing things. From the feminist perspective, why must a mother duck bring the ducklings to cross the road, but not to father duck? That is how the feminist is going to be interpreting this picture. So each one is going to be interpreting in a different way, depending upon how they're going to be seeing things. Now, as I was telling you earlier, questioning is very important. And in the process of questioning, there are a few people who need to keep together. That is, 6 men to be kept together with this. That is according to Kipling, he says, who, where, why, what, when, and how. So these are the 6 men whom you need to keep together in the process of doing your research, because when you have these things on mind, when you start questioning again and again, there's going to be a possibility you work and search in the direction of what is required and what is the outcome that is required. So these are 6 aspects, and questioning is very important. Curiosity is very important. And in the process of being curious, we try to find something new. The process of questioning, let's take an example of, let's take an example of Archimedes. He got into a bathtub, and immediately when he got into, there was a flow of the water outside. And that is where the concept of eureka came in, and there's a scientific research that really happened. There was an outcome that was there about something about the water, what is the amount of the water that spilled out of the bathtub. On the other hand, Newton, when the apple fell on the head of Newton, that is where the question arose, why did it fall? So there was a gravitational pull what was analyzed. On the same way, Wright brothers, the question was, why is that we cannot fly like birds? So, and on the other hand, we had Madame Curie questioning that, why can't I see the what in the night? That's where the concept of radium came into the invention part of it. So there is supposed to be a questioning, and the questioning leads to the answer. So this is what I felt is very important from the student's perspective, the 5-star research approach. Now, what is this 5-star research approach? The first star starts with the domain knowledge, the knowledge of the theory, what we need to gain in the process of research. If I'm going to do a study on a particular concept called as quality of work life, I need to go back to the theory and check out when it was originated and what are the contributions that's been made by the other people who have done work on that. So I need to have the knowledge about the conceptual clarity in order to move forward. So the domain knowledge becomes very, very important. And what we get in the domain knowledge, so that is supposed to be taken care through the research design.
Hello, madam.
Yes, sir.
Hello. I think a PPT is not running. We need to change the slides.
I've changed the slide, sir.
But it is not showing on the screen.
Oh, 1 second, then I'll share it again.
Madam, have your PPT into slide mode. That's what is not moving.
1 second. Sir, is it visible now?
Now it is visible. Yes.
I'm sorry. Maybe I'll just run through the slides once.
Yes.
1 second. Is it visible now, sir? No?
Yes. It is visible. Yes.
It's okay. Fine. Should I run back to the other slides?
So you give a brief run of previous 3 slides so that
Okay, this was a picture which I had given for them to interpret. And there's an interpretation I've taken from the dimension of the philosopher, scientist, and the feminist. I'm now coming to the 5-star research approach. So now is it visible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
Madam, still it is not in slide mode.
1 second. Now, sir?
No.
No?
At the bottom of the slide, there is a slide mode button. Please click on it. Yeah.
Is it visible now, sir?
No, still it is not in slide mode.
Slideshow. So now, is it?
No, not in slide mode. It's okay, ma'am.
So 1 second. So just give me a second's time.
Hello. I request other than presenter, others please mute your microphones. This is a humble request. Other than presenter, others please mute the microphone. Please, madam, over to you.
1 second, sir. So now is it visible?
Slide is visible, but whether it is in slide mode is on or not, only I think it is visible.
Is it visible, sir? Okay, then can I continue now?
Okay.
Sir, can you please check if it's visible for everybody? Sir, are you seeing the 5-star research approach slide now?
I can see. We can see that slide. Yes.
Yes, madam. We are seeing them.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for the 5-star. The first star speaks about the knowledge, what is required of the concept, what you're going to be studying. And second is about the research design, which I'll be dealing a little later. It's a lengthy process. And once the research design is created, because that's a crux of the whole research, what we do, and then we need to have the hands on the statistical tools. So what type of tool is to be used and when it is to be used, I'll be just touching upon the concepts today, but the detail of that will be done in the tomorrow's session. These are the 3 stars from the approach of research. And slightly coming on the other hand, 4th star is about understanding the university rituals, that is the expectations of the university in the process of doing a research from a particular student. I think already the students have gone the hold on the guidelines which has been specified by the Bangalore North University regarding the chapterization and what is the content to be covered. And moving a little forward, it is for the students to understand the star regarding the pulse of the guide. Understanding the pulse of the guide is very, very important to see that every move of yours has to be moved in the direction taking the consultation of the guide, which is very, very important because they would fine tune it, they'll put you in the right direction. So next, moving forward, there are 2 types of skills which are required in the process of research. The first one is a hard skill and the second one is a soft skill. Now, what is the hard skill? The hard skill is about the hands-on research design, how it is to be formulated and how it is to be actually written. and how it is, because that speaks about a few pages, maybe just 3-4 pages of your research design speaks about the whole project as such. And next is about the hands-on the data analysis, the type of the tools, what you need to use. It could be the mean, the standard deviation, it could be the chi-square test or the t-test, the ANOVA, the regression or the correlation. So you need to have a hold over this. Today we have multiple open sources which are available. And a lot of these tools can be actually done in case of advanced Excel. And next is about our hands-on reporting. So today my coverage of the topic would be on the first aspect, that is research design. And tomorrow you will be learning about the data analysis from Dr. Sai Kumar sir. And on the third day, you will be learning on the hands-on, that is reporting, how a reporting is supposed to be done. So that is regarding the hard skills which is required for you to complete the project effectively. So next, coming to the soft skills. Soft skills, nothing but understanding the theory, the guide, and that of the university. So let us look into the chapters which are specified as per the guidelines of the university. There are 6 chapters. That is, chapter 1 is introduction. Chapter 2 is going to be the review of the literature. Chapter 3 is going to be research design. Chapter 4 is a company profile, followed by chapter 5, data analysis interpretation, and lastly, summary of finding, conclusion, suggestions, where the discussion also can be brought into the chapter 6. And in the chapter 6, there is also a requirement that you need to give a score for the research. And next, they're not chapters, they're just the supplements. What you have is the bibliography and the annexures. Now, this is the research framework what we have in order to complete your project work. It starts with the research topic identification to ends with reporting, which we are going to be learning in the next 3 days. So let me move forward and try to take a...
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, your screen is not visible, ma'am.
Ravindra sir, is it possible if at all I share the PPT with you? Can you play from the other end, sir? Is it possible? Hello?
Please wait.
If I share it with you, is it possible for you to share from your end?
Please hold my
Hello? 1 second, I'll do that, sir, immediately.
PPT share ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಂತ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಕಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿರತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳು ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಹಲೋ
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any issues?
They were not able to see the slides, is what they told me. That's the reason.
I was checking the comments on YouTube. There must be an issue with their internet. There's nothing wrong on your side or our side.
No, internet is quite strong here, so I don't find
it's perfect on your side and everything's going smoothly here.
Yeah, if they just
having some network issue.
If they just pin on the presentation, they'll be able to see the presentation. There's a pin. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If they pin on the presentation, they'll be able to see the slides. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, while your presentation, somebody presented. That is the problem, madam.
I didn't get you, sir.
Madam, while you were presenting, somebody has presented in Google Meet. Only resource person should present.
So what is the option now? What we have? Because
some other person has presented the screen. You please share again, madam. You please share. No problem.
Ma'am, you can continue the presentation. Everything will go on smoothly.
Okay, sir.
Just represent the screen, not an issue with that. And so, make it a screen share, ma'am.
Please go to slide mode, madam. Slide mode.
Yeah, slide
share
mode.
the screen. Make it slideshow, ma'am, so that it will be visible.
So now is it visible? I've made the slideshow mode. Is it visible now?
Yes, madam. Yes.
It is visible. Yes, very much visible. Yes.
Okay, fine, sir. Yeah. So can I move forward now, sir? So can I go ahead?
Please continue.
Yes, sir. Now this is the research process. What we need to understand in a nutshell. That is, the first is defining the research problem. Now, before defining the research problem, we have to identify the area of the research. We have to find the topic. So I'm just giving you the brief insight because everything cannot be put into one slide here as such. So the first step is going to be defining the research problem. Then moving ahead to review of literature. In review, you are going to be looking into the concepts and the theories which are available and what is the outcome of the previous research. And from there, you identify the gap and you are going to be constructing the objectives based on the gap identified, then formulate the hypothesis based on the objective. There should be an engagement, there should be a link between the title, then the objectives, and the hypothesis. And research design, this is what I'm going to be touching a little later after a few introduction given to research. And the sampling design is going to be a part of it. Then we collect the data, analyze the data, and interpret the data. So this is the diagrammatic representation of what the total research process is all about. Coming to chapter 1, it is the introduction chapter where you're going to be identifying the broad area. It could be finance, it could be marketing, HR, education, entrepreneurship. It depends upon what is the area of interest, what you have. An exhaustive reading of the broad area of research is supposed to be done. And once you have the concept clarity there, identify the topic of your interest. And you have to move from macro to micro. You need to funnel down. Funnel down is nothing but moving from macro to micro. Identify the topic and try to understand why you want to ask questions there. Why is that is interesting you, and what is that you want to do with the topic, and what should be the outcome of it? So there should be a little bit of reading, which is very essential in order to understand the concepts better. And the background study of the research topic is supposed to be done, which is very, very essential. How to write the background of the study, I'll let you know a little later. That's about the chapter 1. In the chapter 1, the first one is, then you have to identify the topic. When you're identifying the topic, you have to do a reading. A reading is nothing but review of literature. From the review of literature, we have to identify the gap. Now, what is review of literature? It is nothing but the work which is already being done by the others. Let me take an example of employee engagement. So that's a topic you wanted. Let me redefine the topic. A study on employee engagement of employees in IT sector in Bangalore city and its impact on organizational effectiveness. That's the title what I'm going to be framing. So I look into the journals which gives me the insights to the particular topic. That's employee engagement, its impact on organizational effectiveness. So I see how many people have done the research already on this particular topic and what is the findings what they have. What are the variables what they have used, and what is the scope for further research what they have left. For example, the employee engagement has been done from 4 different dimensions. Could be leadership, could be decision making, involvement. But you feel that there are other variables which can be incorporated there. So you will be taking, that will be the research gap for you. What is not already done will become a research gap. What has been missing in the earlier research work done by the others. And there has to be a right approach, a novel approach towards a research gap. And when you do your research, that should lead to some contribution to the field of study, where that will be taken as a review of literature by the people who are going to be taking it forward next. Now, coming to the constructs. Constructs are nothing but the variable. The constructs, when a value is going to be given, is going to be called as variables. I've just taken a title there, a study on total quality in higher education, its impact on later life success among corporates in Bangalore city, and HRD perspective. So when you're going to be framing a title, there should be an independent variable, there should be a dependent variable. Now, these independent dependent variables are going to be called as constructs. A study on total quality in higher education, its impact on later life success. So there are 2 variables here. 2 constructs, because I have not given a value to it, so it's going to be called as construct. So quality in higher education is going to be a construct, and later life is going to be a construct. There are 2 constructs what I have. So when you're doing a study, there should be at least 2 constructs, 1 independent, 1 dependent variable. So you can do with 3 and 4 also, what you can see in the slide. Let me tell you a little later after completing this. So the constructs are nothing but the identified problem area, which is going to be identified as independent and dependent variable. Now, the type of education what you get is going to decide your later life success. from dimension of personal life as well as professional life. So independent factor, independent variable is going to be your quality of education, what you get at the graduate or at the graduate level, if I speak about higher education. And dependent is going to be your success by the type of the quality of education, what you have got, what is your later life success. And this is called as construct. Independent variable, dependent variable, there are two what we have here. So those two are going to be called as construct. If I've just taken one example here about quality in higher education as a construct. And it has different dimension. Quality in higher education, I look from the dimension of academic skills, the technical skills, and the institutional factors. So these are going to be the dimensions or the factors. Under every dimension, I'm going to be having questions, which are going to be called as either items or called as statements. Quality in higher education is a construct where I give a value to it that becomes a variable. And under the construct, I have the various factors that contribute to quality in higher education. And under the dimension, I'm going to be having a few statements, and the questions, those are going to be called as items or statements. So this is about two constructs, what I spoke about. Coming to three construct. Now, three construct is called as mediating variable, mediation effect. And four construct is going to be called as mediator and moderator playing an important role. For the same title, if at all I'm going to add one dimension about, this is independent variable, this quality in higher education. This is a dependent variable, that is going to be later life success. If I bring in skill, so skill has an impact on quality in higher education. That's quality in higher education has an impact on the skill. And skill has an impact on the later life success. So I'm bringing in one new entry of the skills, which makes it the three construct. And coming to four construct is where I bring in a mediator and a moderator. A moderator could be in lines of organizational effectiveness. Mediator is a skill, and independent variable is a quality in higher education. Dependent variable is later life success. Mediating effect is going to be the skills, and the moderator, which is going to be having an impact on this too, is going to be, let me take an example of your organizational effectiveness. So this is going to be called as construct, but at your PG level now for doing your project work, you can stick on to two variables, that is two construct approach. So this will be at a higher level, just giving an insight about what can be done further. Now coming to the topics. There is difference in writing for an article and difference for writing for an academic requirement. When you're writing for an academic requirement, we always start with a study on. So I've just given you two examples. One is already stated to you earlier. A study on role and relevance of quality circle in promoting employee performance in service sector at Bangalore City. The topic should be simple, understandable in a layman language. It is not about using the jargons. It should be made very simple, understandable, which is very, very quintessential. If not, it leads to a lot of confusion. And you should be very clear. You should be very clear when you're going to be framing the title, because the scope also is clearly covered here. A study on role and relevance of quality circle. For what? For promoting employee performance, where in the service sector. And the scope, the geographical area is also very clearly specified as Bangalore City. So this is the way, this is how the topic is supposed to be framed. But when it comes to an article writing, there's a different way how it is going to be presented. I told you earlier, there's a difference of writing the title for the project work and that of an article. When you want to publish, so in any of the journals, you can use it the way you want, need not be the same words to be used, but there's something called as universal requirement. You have to go by the guidelines. So there are two examples what I've given you about for non-academic writing. That is for applicable for articles.
Sorry to interrupt, madam.
Yes, sir.
The slide is not moving, it seems.
Sir, what I'll do is I'll share the slides to you, sir, if you don't mind. Is it possible for you?
Okay, just She's sharing slides.
Yeah, ask her. Hello.
Hello, yes, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, you must just scroll through the slides. Yeah, you just not changed it.
Oh, okay. Now is it visible, sir?
Very much. Yes,
okay.
It is. Yeah.
So for article writing, there's going to be a different way of title writing. I've just given you 2 examples there. Footprint in green, a mission towards green consciousness. That's a way we write because we want it to be more attractive jargons to be used, which is simple and understandable. And the next one is about wings to imagination. That's a way of expressing for what are we using that? For the theater as a learning tool in education. So the way of writing the title, it is very different for an article writing and that of the academic writing. So make it very simple and there should be clarity in the topic. Do not use technical knowledge, which is going to be confusing. So next, moving to the chapter 2, which is very important, that's a review of literature. Review of literature, as you already know, you also done a subject called as research methodology in your earlier semester. Review of literature is nothing but the study of a particular topic which has already been researched by others. So that is going to be called as review of literature. When you're taking the review, please do take from the top 10 listed journals which is available, because that gives you an a holistic view from different dimensions of the people done from different parts of the world. You're not restricting it to a particular place or a region. You can get the info from different people's dimension, and across the world, details also is going to be available. So I've just devised a tab. And for your study, for your project work, at least minimum 20 to 25 review of literatures you will have to put in your project work. And when you're doing a review of literature, when you take an article, some articles, a smaller article will be 10 pages. A larger article will go up to 15, 20, 30 pages. So it becomes very difficult to run, though you have a glance reading, but you want information, and that information can be compiled in the form of a tabular form. So it is left to your convenience how you like. I've just put across my thoughts about how a review of literature can be put in a tabular form. The first is the name of the author or the authors, the year of the publication, the title of the article, the title of the paper, and the place of the study. How does it matter? The place of the study matter? I'll take it a little later. Then methodology, what they've used. In findings, I've just put 2 columns there. What are the variables, what they've used, and what is the findings, what have come out. And you can also make another column of conclusions. So that depends upon how and what is that information, what you personally require. And next is the future research. What is that you are going to be suggesting for the future researchers? So in your in your project work also, in the last chapter, after your suggestions, there should be a paragraph on future research called as scope for future research. So there's a tabular form what I have. I've just given an example of one of the review of literature, not according to the tabular form. I told you the tabular form or the way you want to compile the review of literature, it varies from person to person. There's nothing like a standard rule. So it depends upon the requirement of the research scholar. The first is the author, the year of publication, the place of study. They've not taken the title here, so it is left to the research scholar whether they do require it or not. It was always preferred to have the title of the study to make one more column for it. Then research methodology. What is the methods, what they have used? And that also covers a lot of variables, and sometimes a period of study also will be taken into consideration here. And what are the major findings and suggestions what they have? This is one way of tabulating the review of literature. So this is the other way what you have. This is going to be in a paragraph form. What I have put in a tabular form, it has to be put in a tabular form, in a paragraph form when you're going to be writing. So now it is left to the discretion of the research scholar either to go with the tabular form and then convert that into a paragraph, or you can directly start doing from the paragraph. But my suggestion would be do a tabular form first, and then you can write it down in this format. So it covers all the aspects are going to be covered, but the tabular form, it becomes easy for you to do certain interpretations and finding out the variables. So here you can see this research was done in 1997 by two authors, that is Elizabeth and Richard. And this was done on the selection of undergraduates for the hotel management. And what is the course and where it was offered? It was offered in UK. And how it was done? It was a semi-structured face-to-face interview of how many people? 25 people. And what identified 16 UK institutions, and what are the attributes? What they looked into were academic attainment, ability, motivation, and the other factors. And what is the outcome of this? Why they have done it, and what's the outcome is that there's a mismatch between the admission procedure and the selectors, that is, which was taken into consideration. So this gives you to grab the information and put it the way you require. But in the project work, you cannot put the tabular form. You have to always go by this. Now, coming to the next concept, what we have is a review of the literature. Now, review of literature is, as we have understood now, there's a gap to be identified. What is this gap? What is not being done by the earlier researcher? For example, they have done an exploratory study on a particular topic. So now what you have to do is do an empirical study. If they've done an empirical study already, they've restricted only to Bangalore city. So is it and done only for 100 samples? Is it possible to extend the range of the people from 100 to 500? And it is done only on manufacturing sector. Is it possible to do a comparative analysis of manufacturing as against the service sector? Or somebody's already done only in manufacturing. Is it possible that you can do in the service sector? Let me take an example, work-life balance. It is a very old topic, but even today the research is going on. There was one study, what we did was the quality of work-life balance of women conductors of KSRTC. So not much of research was done on that. So that was a gap that was identified. And we also identified that it was not done on the police women. So the further study was that we did one on conductors, women conductors, the other one on the police women. So similarly, you can start identifying the gap only when the proper review of literature has been done. Maybe one or two variables have not been taken into consideration. So that can become the part of the study, or only the exploratory work is done from the secondary data. So you can think about doing an empirical study, or maybe they have not used advanced tools of it. So that tool, use of right statistical tool also can be one of the research gap that can be identified. Or somebody is done with only a structured scale that is available, the structured questionnaire that's going to be available. So you are going to be designing a new questionnaire with the new attributes that's going to be added to it, and new constructs which are going to be given from a different dimension. So that makes it different, and that is what the research gap is all about. And once a research gap is going to be identified, that is where it follows. What is that? You come out with a conceptual framework. Now, what is this conceptual framework? I've just taken the same example so that it becomes easy for everybody to understand and have the flow of it. So this is connected to quality in higher education, impact on later life success from the HRD perspective. So I have taken the demographic variables. I've taken institutional factors, skills acquired, and later life success. So quality of higher education has been divided into two attributes. One is institutional factors and skills acquired. So I've just tried to connect. Demographic variables have an impact on the skills. You can see the connectivity of the arrow marks. That is, demographic variables have a connect with the skills. Demographic variable has a connect with the institutional factors. So institutional factors have an impact on later life success. Then skills acquired has an impact on later life success. Where did I get this from? I got this from the review which I did. So that is where a conceptual framework can be identified. I'll just show you one more example of a conceptual framework. It's very simple for all of you to understand. You can think about doing this at your PG level. Now, I just use a different title for it. A study on employee retention practices and its impact on organizational effectiveness with particular reference to print media. So you can see the title speaks about employee. That's the independent variable. And what is a dependent variable? Dependent variable is going to be the organizational effectiveness and where it is being done, very specifically told print media, and what is the geographical area that's going to be Bangalore city. So employee retention, I've just taken these variables. Where do I take the variables? Randomly, I don't take the variables. I do take the variables from the review of literature. From the study, what I've done earlier, I do take the review of literature. Does not mean that for my study, all this is going to be having an impact. But still, from the review of literature, the variables will be identified. And I also have identified how we define organizational effectiveness. So this is how we define organizational effectiveness as per the review of the literature again. Then trying to connect this to, try to identify the correlation between the independent and dependent variable, that is employee retention and organizational effectiveness, and then trying to find the relationship. So this depends upon the scope of your study again. What is that you would like to do? So I'll take up this a little later about what types of tools to use in the later end of the session. So let's try to move forward. So we have done with the two chapters. The first one is about the introduction. The second one is about the review of literature. From the review of the literature, sorry, in the chapter 2, we come across a review of literature. And from the review, we are going to be identifying the gap. And the gap is going to help me to develop a conceptual model. So I would like you all PG students to try at your end at this PG level to see that you create a conceptual framework. But please understand there will be a difference between the conceptual framework and the empirical model. What will be the difference? Now I've taken 8 variables here, 8 different dimensions what I have. And on the organizational effectiveness, I have 9 different variables. So maybe as per the earlier research, job satisfaction had an impact on organizational effectiveness, maybe. But according to my study, what is the area, what I selected, I've taken print media and Bangalore city, maybe job satisfaction does not have an impact, or reward recognition does not really make an impact, or it can be work-life balance have never made an impact on the organizational effectiveness according to my study. So what happens when I come out with the empirical model? So job satisfaction, reward, and work-life balance will not be in the empirical diagram because it does not have an influence on the organizational effectiveness. So there will be a difference between the conceptual framework and the empirical model as such. Let's try to move ahead. Coming to the concept of research design. This is the crux of your whole project as such. This is where you have to have a clear understanding. If you have a clear understanding about the research design, that means you're clear with the outcomes. So before that, as we go ahead with research design, the first and the foremost thing what we have to keep on mind is the theoretical background. When you start with the chapter research design, you just cannot just start like that. You have to just give a little bit of intro. Introduction, maybe just a paragraph. And what you write in the theoretical background is explaining the significance of the topic, what is being selected, then explaining the knowledge gap, what is there, and how you're going to be filling up the knowledge gap. So I've just made an attempt to help you to identify and know how to really write the theoretical background. Taking the same example again, explaining the significance, how quality in higher education has helps to gain later life success, maybe a sentence or 2 on that. Then trying to give an empirical study, that means a gap, what you're going to be identifying is that, what we have done research gap, an empirical study has not been done, it is being done on quality in higher education. But not much of attention has been given on empirical study on, that is quality of higher education, which has an impact on the later life success. There is no empirical evidence at all. So that is going to be theoretical background what we give. And how do you fill up this gap? How do you see that you bridge the gap between quality in higher education and that of the later life success? By giving all the skills and the institutional factor. Institutional factor does not mean only academics, it comes from different dimensions. It comes from core curricular activities, it comes from library, what is there in the organization, and how do you fill up this is seeing that institutional factors, in collaboration, in agglomeration with the skills, can drive away the unemployability. So that's the way you write. So I'm just giving you just about how to write it. So this can make up a paragraph or two so that it can give a clear idea about the theoretical background. Next, moving forward, the significance of the study. Why is the study important? We still go by Bloom's taxonomy. That is nothing but checking the memory of an individual. And our education system is become more like an examination centered. So there is a requirement that we have to revamp the present education requirement. I think a lot of there's a paradigm shift, what you can see in the new education policy about how the reformation can happen, can be revamped, how the present education system can be revamped. So significance of study is nothing but trying to tell what was earlier and why is that this area has become an interest to you, and what is the significance of this particular study, so that there can be a revamp and a new paradigm shift can happen in the present education system. After that, what we have is connected to statement of the problem. Now, statement of the problem is very important. It will be a paragraph or two. Now, all that what we are going to be writing in research design will be maximum 4 pages. Between 3 to 4 or maximum 5 pages. So each one is not going to be writing pages together. You just write the crux of it in small few paragraphs. Now, the statement of the problem is nothing but the reason why you have taken up this particular study. And what is the problem actually existing in the present education system? So it is disheartening to see that the way I've just written, the present education system is focused mostly on academics for education, employment, and economic advantage, and very less importance has been given to holistic education, that is the well-being of the individual. So it is not only trying to help a person to get economic advantage, but also later life success, both in terms of professional and personal walk of life. Now, just giving a small example, when the 10th and the second PUC results are out, immediately on the same day or in the next day, newspapers and medias, we can see that a lot of suicidal attempts or people have put an end to themselves. So we are training them for examination purpose, and what about the life skills is not being touched upon. It's just one part of life. So there is what life is all about, what next is going to be life. So that is not what we have thought about. So education system has failed to create life skills and value systems. So that is where the need is going to say the problem is that no concentration is going to be on the holistic development of an individual. So that is the way you write the statement of the problem. So you can write one more paragraph in the light of the above, in the light of the present on later life success. Now, after the statement of the problem is being devised, the next is going to be regarding the research questions. Now, what is that your present study is supposed to be addressing? Now, just devised a few questions. The first one is whether the demographic variables that contribute to quality in higher education, whether it's really contributing. So you're going to be taking from the impact that is from the dimension of the demographic variables. For example, number of dependents in the family, does it have an impact on quality of education? You just need to think about the the qualification of the parents, qualification of mother, does it have an impact on the quality of higher education? What a student is going to be gaining? The qualification of the mother, does it have an impact on the quality of education, what is being gained by a child? When I was doing the study, I could see that, according to my study, the qualification of the father had an impact on the quality of education of a son or a daughter. But on the other hand, the education of the mother did not have an impact. So it is according to my study. So if at all you do a survey on that, you might be getting a different, depends upon the type of the sample, what we are going to be looking at for. And what are the factors that are most influencing for the institutionalization of the quality in higher education? Two factors what was considered. One is the institutional factors, and the second one is the skills that is going to be imparted. Under skills, 4 different type of skills. What I had taken under institutional factors, I had taken 6 dimensions. So, what are the factors that contribute to higher education? And next, what are the gaps between what is expected and what is the current? So, there, when you are able to identify the gaps, that is where you'll be able to arrive at the outcome. So, the statement of the problem should be followed by the research questions. So, I'll just try to recollect. In the research design, we have to write a paragraph on theoretical background, and theoretical background should be just a paragraph or 2, small 2 paragraphs, and write the significance or the need of the study. Then you write the statement of the problem. Then you're going to be arriving at the questions, and these questions are going to lead to the objectives, what I'm going to be formulating. So when I'm supposed to be formulating the objectives, there should be a synchronization, there should be an engagement, there should be a connect between title, research problem, and the objectives. Please try to understand there should be a connect. If there is a mismatch between the 3, in that case, your interpretations or your data, all the other next process will go for a flaw. The title should get synchronized to the research problem to that of the objectives. I've just given one example. The title is the study on quality in higher education, its impact on later life success, and the research problem is focused on IT sector. Objective focuses on employee engagement and training and development. This is the example which is not right. I've taken an example, not to tell what is right, but what is not right, what is wrong. The title is very clear. It specifies about total quality and later life success. Okay, this is fine. Research problem is IT sector. I've not specified here whether it's IT sector. I can specify that in the scope, but still, I would suggest that you need to specify that. For example, in the earlier one of the slide what we saw, there was something about print media, very specific to a particular industry, what you're going to be targeting. So here the focus is going to be in IT sector, never specified in the title. So the title should be giving me an overview about what the work is all about, because title will instigate the person or will fascinate a person to read the concept. For example, if I'm doing on print media, if it is not there in the title, I'll not go for it. So we go by selective reading again. So when you're going to be doing a title, see that the title gives you the full holistic view of what your full project is all about. And the objective is employee engagement, training and development. So this is not the objective what we have. Our objective is to see that whether these two have a connect and what is the influence what we have. So I hope you're able to get it. Let's move to the next slide. Coming to objective of the study, 3 points to be kept in mind. What is the 3 points? One is that it has to be title specific. It has to be covering the construct that is a independent variable and the dependent variable. If you cover only independent variable, leave away the dependent variable, so it's not going to be complete. So you have to see that the objectives, what you're going to be framing, is going to be looking into both independent variable and the dependent variable. If there is any mediating factor, the 3 construct what we looked into, it has to be covering the mediating factor. If at all we have a moderator, so the objective should cover even the moderator too. It should be a complete coverage of the total IVs and the DVs what we're going to be devising. And my suggestion would be that maximum 4 to 5 objectives. Maximum. Minimum, it's left to you. You cannot just live with 1. You have to go for 3 to 4 objectives, and maximum 5 objectives is what you can go, because your questionnaire development, if you're going to be developing a scale, in that case, every objective what you form will have to have a few questions. For example, on demographic variable, if you have 10 questions, on factors you have 2. There is no right blend at all. So at least for one objective what you frame, you need to have at least 4 to 5. 4 to 5 questions connected to that particular objective. In total, for your PG level, you can think about having 30 to 40 questions inclusive of your demographic variable. And when you're going to be constructing a questionnaire, check whether it is going to be having an impact, whether a particular demographic question, what you're going to be asking, does it have any impact on the study what you're going to be doing? So this will be in detail, how to construct a question will be taken detailedly by Sai Ramsur in the next session. Now, these are the 4 objectives what I have formulated. That is, demographic variables, does it have an impact on the quality of higher education that is gained at the institution? To analyze the factors contributing to quality in higher education, it is covering 2 aspects, as I told you, that's institutional factors as well as the skills acquired, and to assess the impact of quality in higher education on later life success, and to measure the later life success of the respondents from the HRD perspective. So whatever the title was framed, it is covering all the ambit, it's covering the whole ambit of the total title of the study in the objectives. And from the objectives, we go ahead to the hypothesis. Now, what is hypothesis? It is a tentative statement. And that is what I need to prove. And the hypothesis will also lead to this tools what you need to use. So hypothesis is nothing but the statement. There's something called as null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis. Now, what is this null hypothesis? Null hypothesis, in the earlier days, we used to write both null and alternate. But of late, there is a trend that's been changed, but they write only the alternate hypothesis. Now, what does null hypothesis say? There is no significant difference at all. There's no difference. For example, let me take the example for understanding what hypothesis is. All the men like pink. This is a statement what I'm making. I need to prove it. If in a group there are 20 people, and if I do a survey, I'm getting that only 5 people like pink. That means my statement is wrong. So that means the hypothesis is not proving. I hope I'm clear. That means there are people who do not like pink. But what is a generalized statement what I have made? The generalized statement what I've made is that all the men like pink. On the other hand, I say all the girls like red. Maybe some of them don't like red. So that prove that statement, I can prove it right or wrong only when the analysis is going to be done with a statistical tool. So I've taken 4 hypotheses here for the particular study. The significant difference between demographic variables and institutional factors. Now, when I'm going to be finding the significant difference between the demographic variables and the institutional factors, I'm going to be using the mean and the standard deviation. I'm just telling you what can be used, but this detail of it will be dealt in the next session, that's tomorrow. I'll just give you a brief insights to it. When I'm trying to find the association, the second hypothesis what I have is the significant association between demographic variables and skills. So when I'm supposed to do the association, what I need to use is the chi-square test. When I'm supposed to find the relationship, I'll be using the correlation and the influence of that. I'll repeat. Association, when you're supposed to do, you will have to use a chi-square. Relationship, when I need to find out, I need to do the correlation. And the influence, when I have to find one over the other, I need to use a regression. So your hypothesis will also help you to tell what type of statistical tool, what you need to do. As I told, there should be a connect. There should be an agreement between the title, objective, and the hypothesis. Please keep all the 3 together and try to analyze and see if you have left anything. Have you touched on quality and higher education? Yes. Have you looked into later life success? Yes. Have you picked up the HRD perspective? Yes. So if it answers all these attributes, that means it's going to be complete. So there should be a connect between the title, the objectives, and the hypothesis. Next, coming to research methodology. Before going ahead, let us try to recollect what we have done. First one was a theoretical background, a paragraph or 2. Next, coming to the significance of the study, then the statement of the problem, followed by research questions, followed by objectives, and the objectives to be followed by the hypothesis. And next, we come to research methodology. In the research methodology, we have to write about the research location and the respondent company. Now, research location is about where is the study that's going to be done. It also gets covered in the scope of the study too. The research location is going to be the companies which are situated in Bangalore city, restricted to Bangalore city, restricted to Kolar, restricted to Bangarpet. So restricted to different area, not Bangalore. So you're going to be specifying the research location and who are the respondents and what type of company it is. So respondent company could be only IT sectors, only service sectors, maybe 10 service sectors, or it can be 5 service, 5 manufacturing sector. So it depends upon what are the companies, what you have selected, and what basis what you have selected. Now, there are certain basis what we select the company, the top 10 companies, top 10 IT companies in Bangalore. You want to understand their employee engagement. You want to understand the retention strategies. You want to understand the fringe benefits given to them. So you are going to look into the top companies, or you can look into a particular area, trying to compare between one company in a rural area, one company in the urban area. So research methodology, you need to specify the research location as well as the respondents companies too. Next, coming to the scope of the study. In scope of the study, 2 things have to be kept on mind. One is the content scope. The other one is going to be the geographical scope. Now, what do you mean by content scope? Content scope means it is the study limited to quality in higher education and later life success from HRD perspective. Both IVs and DVs going to be taken into consideration. The content is going to be nothing but the topic of your study and the ambit what is going to be covering. And geographical scope refers to where the study is going to be made. Is the study going to be made in Kerala? Is it going to be done in Tamil Nadu? So the geographical scope has to be specified. Because as I told you, we have to minor down a funnel in case of research. If I'm going to be doing the whole of India, again, you can take 2 samples from each state, but that does not give you generalization again. So that's the reason we try to restrict to a particular area. So for your study, you can think about the area, what you're going to be there, and that you can take into consideration. Next, after the scope of the study, you come across the operational definition. The definition, it is not that what you're going to be specifying, what you get the definitions from the book on a particular concept. So it is nothing but the definition, what you're going to be devising in the particular study, what you're going to be making. It's not what you take from the definitions given by a particular person. It is how you define the particular product. For example, later life success, if I have to define, it is nothing but for me, it is like, I'll just take an example. Economic well-being of an individual is going to be later life success. For somebody, it's going to be having a quality life. So that is going to be a definition of later life success to somebody. I'm the research scholar and I need to define the quality according to me. What is quality? Quality is 0 defect. How do you define quality in higher education? I'll take an example. The type of the education, what I got from the college where I studied, if it is going to be giving me a decent job with a decent salary. That is one perspective. Other perspective is the quality of education, what I've got from my educational institution where I studied, is going to be making me a person with values. So that is the other definition, what the other definitions available. So according to you as a research scholar, according to you as a person doing the project, what does it really mean to you? It varies from person to person. It varies from the ambit of this study or the coverage of this study. So I've just taken two operation definitions from the marketing perspective. On the other hand, the operation definition from leadership style. For this present study, what is leadership style according to me? The qualities, only these qualities are taken into consideration. There could be many qualities as such. But for my study, what I'm covering in my study is going to be respect, the inspiration, reliance, motivation, being impartial. These are the various attributes, 6-7 attributes, what I've taken to define what leadership style is all about. In the same way, coming to work environment and job satisfaction involvement, how is that I'm going to be defining? There are different hundreds and thousands of definitions. How would you define job satisfaction? It varies from person to person. It will not remain the same. So in similarly, work environment. So these are the various attributes what I've taken while defining work environment. So when I'm preparing the questionnaire, I will be looking into these aspects only, because these are the attributes what I've associated work environment to. So it is like you write it one part and forget is not enough. You need to see that you carry it down to the full project is very, very essential. So these are both the operational definitions what we have. The next one is connected. It's connected to the finance. That is depreciation cost. How do I identify it? It is comprising of depreciation on machinery for a manufacturing concern. If it is going to be a project on transport sector, so depreciation cost is going to be nothing but the depreciation of the trucks, or it can be the buses. Administration, other cost, it varies. If I'm doing for a service sector, it's going to be different. If it is going to be for if it's going for a manufacturing sector, it's going to be different. If it's going to be for in specific education institutions, it's going to be different. So in the same way, the finance cost also being defined. So you will have to define the operation definition plays very important role, because you need to understand on how the concepts have been evolved. And in the process of doing your research work, you can come out with a new jargons, you can come out with a new concept, and you can as well patent it. But it requires a lot of rigorous work. So after the operation definitions, what we have is the research methods. When you had BRM subject, so these are the very different types of research what we have. Then first coming to the concept of applied research is nothing but when you have a problem, concentrating on that to find a solution is going to be called as applied research. I'll not touch upon every of the aspect. A few one which I would touch upon here. Exploratory research have three, that is literature, experience, and focus group. Now, in case of literature, go to ROL, that's review of literature, and from the review of literature, come out with a new hypothesis, what others have not done. Maybe it is a concept on marketing of insurance products. So you do a review of literature, maybe 70, 80, 90, 100 review of literatures, and then you come out with the hypothesis that is going to be looked into in case of the literature research. The next is about the experience. For example, let me give you an example of an experience research. That is, you go to a group of housewives and you approach them and ask them what is their perception, what is their impressions about MTR ready to eat. So you're trying to get information from them. Or maybe go to a person who reads the newspaper every day, who purchases a newspaper or reads a newspaper online every day, and check out what is their perception, what is their impressions about the type of the news that is being put up on the front page. So you are trying to get information from the experiences, and that is what connects to the knowledge base of research. The next one is the focus group, that is trying to bring together 10, 15 people, talking to them together as a panel and trying to see that they become a part of the discussion, being very unbiased, and from there you're going to be coming out with a solution. So that becomes the focus group. On the other hand, we have descriptive, there is a case analysis what we have, or the case study what we have. Now, it can be a illusionary case cooked up, or it can be a real case. So real case for me is something on the edu entrepreneur, the impact of the pandemic on the educational institutions today, from the perspective of the teachers, or it can be from the management side, or it can be from the learning side, that is from the students' impact. So you can try to analyze from the psychological behavior also in the pandemic situation. So you can look into about as a case study. And next one is about observation, trying to observe the natural behavior of an individuals and try to, especially in terms of psychological study. If you have to complete your psychology course, years and come out with the outcome about how things can be changed and modulated in an individual. That comes in case of the observation research. Then is a survey research. Survey, what we have is the normal questionnaire administering, then one-on-one mail gathering of the information that comes in a survey. Then correlations, trying to find out the difference between one and the other. Most of the research, what we do, I'm not going to touch upon the other things because it will take a lot of time, because it's already been done. I'm not touching on all. Most of the research, what we are going to, the method of research, what we are going to be is going to be called as cross-sectional research. So once we meet a respondent, it is done. So once we have got the information from them. Longitudinal research is where multiple times you have to go and meet the respondent. Let me give you an example. A longitudinal research. There was a study that was done for 7 years. The respondents were the same. When a child completed the school and entered to college at the first PUC level, a questionnaire was administered to them to find out the value possessed by an individual, by the particular student. So it was a longitudinal study which went on for 7 years. The questionnaire was administered in first PUC. The second, it was administered in second. The same questionnaire was administered in the second PUC. The same in first year of degree, second, third year of degree, and same in the PG level. And the same was administered when the person went to a job. So there you have to meet the respondent multiple times. And there's a lot of difficulty also. Maybe what respondent you find in the first year may not be found in the second year. So you have to see that you have a track record. You have the record of all the database of the people who answered for you in the first year. So it's slightly a tedious one, but that gives you a authentic, and it's a time consuming too, but it really gives a joy, but continuing for so many long years is quite a challenging task. Then coming to qualitative research, let me give you one example. Identifying the leadership quality of XYZ. So if you have to do a study on that, unless you convert into today is a day of qualitative research. Even in the Western countries, they've been following. Qualitative research has become a talk of the day today. They've moved from quant to quali now. So qualitative research is wherein attributes that contribute to leadership quality can be converted into quantitative with the help of the scales what we are going to be developing. So with that, you'll be able to identify about what is the leadership quality present in an individual or not. So let's move to the next one. That is methodology and source of data. So in the earlier slide, we looked into the methods. So methodology here is going to be a qualitative method or a quantitative method, but most of you will be doing on the quantitative method here, and it's going to be an empirical type of the research what you do, and it is going to be administered with the help of the survey method. That's a questionnaire method. So how to construct a questionnaire, the details about it, and how to try to synchronize your title with the objectives, with the hypothesis to the questionnaire. A link of that will be practically shown to you, will be articulated to you in tomorrow's session. So coming to the next aspect, what we have is about the source of data. The source of data is the primary data and the secondary data, what we're going to be coming across. Now, primary data, where do we get from? The primary data is going to be a first-hand information what you get through an interview method, or it can be administering the questionnaires. You get the information from the first person. That is going to be called as primary data. What is secondary data? The data already which is available on the net in the form of the research journals, articles, or it can be in the form of the financial reports which are available from the books, from the websites, what's available, that's going to be called as secondary data. And in marketing, HR, and other like education, psychology, all this will go by the primary data. When it comes to the finance projects, we normally go by the secondary data. And secondary data, when the finance students are doing, at least a minimum of 3 years balance sheet has to be taken. You can go up to 5 years, at least minimum 3 years balance sheet available on the net will have to be taken. And keeping in mind the present pandemic, you can, the HR and the marketing students can as well. Now contacting people becomes very difficult, but technology is advanced today, but you can think about doing the project, and the samples also has been specified, at least a minimum 100 samples, if at all I'm not wrong. I'll just get back to you. At least a minimum of 100 samples what you need to administer in order to get. Maybe there's a formula also which will tell you about what is a sample, what is to be taken into consideration to get the authentic or the accurate answer. The next one is about the sample design. Now, sample design is about the data, how it is going to be collected. It is going to be administering the question and the sampling technique, what you're going to be using. You have simple random sampling, you have stratified random sampling, cluster sampling, you have the broad dimension, the broad bifurcation is the probability and the non-probability sampling. So either one of the, normally everybody goes by probability sampling. And non-probability, very rarely we go by that. But it also depends upon the type of the study, what you need to do also. At times, I think now in the pandemic time, you will go by convenience sampling that will come under the non-probability sampling. So the type of sampling methods, what we have is a probability sampling and non-probability. In case of probability, we have 5 different types of sampling, what we have. And in case of non-probability, we have the judgment, quota, convenience sampling, and snowball sampling. You already would have dealt in case of your study. So normally, off late, what I see is that they go by the multi-stage sampling. That's become the trend. And there's nothing wrong in selecting any of the methods, but most often what I see in the research articles, they go by slightly advanced level of sampling, as it may be stratified or it can be multi-stage sampling. And snowball sampling is where the sample is not available to you or you don't know who are the respondents, how you can connect to the respondents. That is when the snowball sampling, that is, identify a person who is going to be a respondent, and from that respondent, you get the reference to go to the next respondent. That goes in case of the snowball sampling. Next, you have sample size. Now, sample size for you, as I told you, would be between 100 and 200. So how do you select? For the study, what I had undertaken, there's a way I selected 5 manufacturing sector public, 5 manufacturing sector private, 5 service sector public, 5 service sector private. So each one of it, I had 125. I mean, each one of the company, I had 25 respondents. That means 5 companies comes to 125. This is slightly at a higher level. So when you're going to be identifying the sample, you should be very careful about how you're going to be selecting the sample. So multi-stage sampling that happens at times. For example, I want to select a company based in Bangalore. It should be at least 10 years old, having a turnover of minimum 1 crore a year. And that's the way I'm going to be selecting the companies too. When I was selecting a public company, there was no additional rule which I laid that they need to have 1 crore plus as the turnover of the particular company, a particular year. But when it came to private company, I had looked into wherein minimum they have bifurcating it stage by stage. That is also going to be taken into consideration. So there you have to take into consideration, that is the total sample. And here, 5 manufacturing, I just put in a tabular form. This you'll have to write in a paragraph form. 5 manufacturing sectors. And which are the 5 manufacturing sectors you need to specify? I just cannot write 5 manufacturing sector public. So specify which are the 5 manufacturing sector, which is going to be public, then which are private, which are service sectors. So which type of service sector? Have you taken banking? If you've taken one company, public banking, so take one company which is going to be private banking. So that's the way you need to try to connect an understanding so that it should not be heterogeneous. You should see that there should be something, some sense what it makes out of the sample which is going to be selected to. And next, coming to the variables. In case of the variables, we have demographic variables, independent variables, independent. Broadly dividing, there are 2 types of variables: independent variable, dependent variable. So independent variable will have an impact on the dependent variable. But when you're creating a questionnaire, we try to divide into different parts. That is, demographic variable will be part A or part 1, independent variables will be part 2, and dependent variable will be part 3. So you can divide your question in form of the sections also. So you should have a clear understanding about your independent variable, dependent variable. This is very important when you're formulating. This will be identified when you're formulating your topic itself. So these are the variables what we are going to be having, but not for all the studies, demographic variable is going to be having an impact. So, but most of the studies we do in HR and marketing, demographic variables will have an impact on the independent and the dependent variable. So there is a requirement to see that the variables have to be identified, and the questioners also should be going the lines of the variables too. Then what are the type of questions what you're going to be having? It is an open-end question and the closed-end question. In an open-end question, how do you feel today? So this is going to be an open-end question. What is a closed-end question? Do you like coffee or tea? When you have yes or no, that is going to be called as closed-end question. Or when you're going to be giving options, that is going to be called as a closed-end question. Any suggestions, if any, that becomes an open-end question. So questions are going to be divided into 2. That is open-end question and the closed-end questions. So Now, when you're going to be developing a scale, that is an instrument. There are different ways of asking a close-end question. It can be in a form of statements too. And first, if it's going to be agreement, and there should be a scale that is 1 to 5. 1 means it is going to be strongly disagree. 2 is disagree. This is a Likert scale, what I've taken first. 3rd is neutral, that is not sure. 4th is agree. 5th is, that is a point that is going to be allotted. If it is a positive statement, what is positive statements? I love sweets. It's a positive statement what I'm giving. So that is when I give it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. When it's a negative statement, I'll repeat, when it's going to be a negative statement, I hate sweets. So it's going to be the other way around. What is 1 strongly agree becomes 5 then. So positive statements will move from 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. And for a negative statement, it's going to be the other way around. So that is from 5 to 1. So that's the way it has been devised. So I would suggest you all people, if you're devising a scale by yours, it would be always better you go by the positive statements in order to eliminate the difficulties in understanding. Because the way the person understands the respondent, it should not create confusion. 1 positive statement, 1 negative statement, they'll have a confusion about how to answer. So in order to eliminate that, you can think about having a positive statement. When it's going to be satisfaction, this is a way the close-ended can be taken into consideration. Give a statement, very satisfied, dissatisfied, it goes in the lines of the agreement. Whereas frequency, it's going to be never, it's going to be rarely, sometimes, often, always. There's a way it's going to be taken forward. When it comes to quality, trying to analyze the quality of the food available in a particular eatery. Poor will be 1, fair, good, very good, excellent. That's the way it's going to be taken into consideration. My one suggestion would be take a structured scale which is already available, because development of a scale itself is a thesis by itself. It's a PhD thesis again. But many of us, we go by developing our own scale. But I would suggest, when you read the review of the literature, you'll be having, when you read the journal articles and all, you'll be getting the structure scale, which are accepted structure scale, you get only in the elite journals. So you can take from there. It's not copying again. Let me put it across again. It is not copying. It is trying to take this scale and trying to come out with the outcome and comparing the outcome with the earlier. So therefore, I would suggest you all people to go by a structured scale available, because developing a scale itself, because you have to find whether the item fits into a particular dimension. If it does not fit in, you have to go for factual analysis, multiple other analysis. What you have to do, you have to do the reliability scale. So all this is important. So probably if you're not doing all those things, or if you don't have the knowledge of it, you can as well go by the structure scale. There's nothing wrong, but please do give the source. From where you have taken, you have to please give the source, acknowledging the efforts that's going to be done by the other. I was telling you about the sample size. A sample is nothing but the representative of the population. For the sample size of 100 at 5% degree of confidence, you will be taking 80 samples. If you take, it's more than enough. For a population of 500, you take 217. For a population of 1,000, you go by 278. And if the population is going to be 10 lakhs, you go for 384. Even if the population is 5 lakhs, you go by 384. You get the accurate results. I still remember when I started my research work, my guide told me, do a survey only for 100. I was so over-enthusiastic, 100, I felt it's very small. I told sir, I think 100 becomes too small a number. I'll do for 200. So I told, okay, fine, you do. But later on, he just told me, after a few days when I had to do my survey, he told me, please compare the analysis with 100 respondents and 250 respondents, what I had taken. It was almost the same. There was not much of a difference. So that is why I understood that a sample for the largest population also, for 10 lakh population, even if I do for 384, I'll be getting the same results. Even if I do for 10 lakh also, I'll be getting the same results. So this is a table. There's a formula also for that. I just picked up this table from the net. So there's a formula what you can use. Now coming to the development of the scale. Now selection of statements. We have the construct. Under every construct we have factors. Under every factors we are going to be having the questions, which are called as statements or items. So you will have to do the statement analysis, whether the statements fit into that particular dimension or not. And how do I select that? I will have to go by the relevancy weightage. The relevancy weightage of asking that particular question, it has a formula for that. And along with that, there is a requirement of expert advice in the field to just go to them, talk to them, whether this question really suits there. And you also have to sit with the company also at times to understand whether this question suits a particular dimension. You have to consult the others. It's all about exchanging of thoughts, information, and then coming up to the conclusion. Otherwise, I always feel that whatever you do is right. In the process of selecting the statements, there could be certain additions of the variables to be done, or it can be the deletion of the new questions. So the data collection instrument, again, what is asked in leadership cannot be asked in decision making again. So there should not be over clashing of the questions in two of the dimensions. So you should see that you isolate yourself to the question which is supposed to be asked in a particular dimension only. And that is very important. And this can be done with the help of the expert advisors too. I still remember when I prepared the question for my thesis work, almost 190 questions were there. So later on, it came down to 117 questions, and there was a mismatch of the questions here and there. So I had to reshuffle the questions again. So 190 to 117, including the demographic variables. So demographic questions. So you can see there's so much of deletions or so much of additions which have been made in case of in the scale that was developed. Now, sampling process to put in a nutshell, defining the population, who is going to be the population, and in the sample frame speaks about who are the active respondents to you. For example, in a college of 200 students, only 150 students are coming to college regularly when I check the attendance books. So my total population is going to be 150 active attendees to the college, and not the 50 who are non-attendees. So sample frame refers to the active respondents who are going to be a part of your study. And there you can start using the different type of, sorry, I lost track. The sample frame is nothing but the active respondents to be taken into consideration. And sampling technique, in the sample frame of that 150 respondents, you can think about going by any one of the sampling technique which can be used, either probability and non-probability. So sampling size refers to the total population, what you're going to be taken into consideration. When I'm speaking about the sample size and the instrument, there is a concept called as common method bias. Now, what is this common method bias? I want to assess the quality of higher education and later life success. So I have questions on demographic, I have questions on questions relating to quality in higher education. I have questions connected to later life success. Who is my respondent? Corporates are my respondent. Who are going to be answering? I had a multi-stage sampling which I did, wherein I took the corporates rupees per month. So this was my the ambit of the selection of the respondents. Now, if I ask the question related to demographic, okay, fine, he will answer. Who is there working in the corporate? Who satisfies all the three conditions? And next, what is the type of the education what he got? I will be asking the question, well and fine. How do if I ask his later life success, is he good in decision making? He will say yes. Are you good in, is your leadership style accepted by the employees in the organization? He says yes. So quality of higher education, what he got, the same person is answering. He himself is answering the later life success. That leads to common method bias. If somebody asks about me, am I good? I will say I'm good. But if you have to get the right information, you have to ask the peer, you need to ask the people associated to me. Only then you'll be able to get the right information. So in order to eliminate the common method bias, what was done is demographic variables was asked and quality in higher education was asked to them, and also asked about the later life success. Similarly, on the other hand, I took 500 of the respondents from the corporate, and I also took 500 supervisors. So the supervisors who have been supervising them at least closely for a month or so was taken into consideration. So I asked the supervisors about the demographic variable, and I asked the supervisors about the response of the particular employee regarding their later life success. So this eliminated my common method bias. If at all I had taken the data, I actually started taking the data, then I realized that this is a mistake what I've done. Then I changed the strategy. So that is where I was able to, in the process of doing it, I was able to understand that the method what I've been approaching is wrong. So you have to be very careful about how to approach, make a skeleton of it beforehand, prepare the milestones, prepare the action plans, and so that you are and pen it down and discuss with your guides. That will we learn, but nevertheless, with the short duration of time, what you have 3 months within which you need to complete, you need to see that all this has to be executed. And at the last, after analyzing the sample size, what we have to go about. The next is nothing but measurement of the scale. In case of measurement of the scale, we have the categorical data and we have the continuous data. Now, I think you're very clear with the categorical data. Yes or no questions, what you have, or closing is going to be called as categorical data. So in the categorical data, it's going to be measured in terms of frequencies. The options male and female, infected, uninfected. So married, unmarried, yes, no. These are going to be the nominal data, the categorical data, we call it as nominal data. When you're going to be ranking, we call it as ordinal data. And when the lowest class interval is known to me, lowest limit is known to me, we call it as interval. And when the lowest limit is not known to me, where I start from 0, that is going to be called as ratios. And this is how the measurement is going to be done. So nominal and ordinal, we always go by the frequencies. The nominal and the ordinal, we go by the frequencies. The continuous, that is the interval, and the ratio, we go by the mean and the standard deviations. So Sir will touch up on this a little later in detail. Now coming to descriptive status, nothing but the categorical data what we have. We normally use percentages, we normally use mean, then we use the standard deviation. These are the descriptive statuses what we use. When it comes to inferences, like trying to find the association, trying to find the influence, trying to find the axis. So then we are going to be looking into the correlation and regression and the other aspects of it. So this is about the plan of analysis. Now coming to understand what we use, what is the type of the independent variable, what's the type of the dependent variable, hypothesis how we develop, and what's the statistical tool what we are going to be using. Categorical data, if the X is independent variable and Y is dependent variable, and hypothesis and the tools what you know, and when to use what. If independent variable is categorical and dependent variable is categorical, then we use chi-square. And repeat, when the independent variable is categorical, when the dependent variable is going to be categorical, we are going to be using the chi-square. When the categorical data has 2 study groups, for example, male, female, others. When we have 2 groups, then we use t-test. When we have 3 groups, male, female, others, then we are going to be using the ANOVA test. And for continuous, that is when it comes to independent variable is going to be continuous and dependent variable is going to be continuous, then we are going to be using correlation and regression. This will be dealt with a lot of examples in detail in the next session. I'm just giving an insight about, because we need to write all this in the research design. Then coming to the period of study. It is very important, the period of study, the reference period, what you're going to be studying. I think normally everybody gets 3 months time. So I've just taken as December, January, and February. So there is a minimum requirement, the total number of days what you have to work in the company. And because of pandemic, it might not happen. It can be happening online. But the reference period has to be specified from which time to which time the study has been conducted. So this is very essential to be specified in the project, what you're going to be writing. Next, coming to limitations. When you're writing the limitations, The limitation should not be more than 4. Try to limit. It can be more than 4, but try to limit it to only 4 limitations. 3 or 4 limitations. I've put only 3 here. Maximum 4 and not more than that. So what would be the limitation? Non-availability of the time, short duration of time. And I've just clubbed things together. It can be made 3 limitations actually: time, resource, and geographical area. I've just put together to make it one single limitation. Time would be a limitation. The restricted time that's going to be given to you only 3 months. Then the resources which are going to be available because you're not able to go and meet them directly during the pandemic now, that could be one of the limitation. And the geographical area, what I've restricted is only the Bangalore city. You'll be restricting only to the area or particular company. So I've taken slightly a bigger one because of my advanced research work, what I'm doing, but you'll be restricting to one particular company on which you're going to be doing. If it's going to be a freelancer project, maybe you might think about slightly expanding your horizons. And the sample size, you'll be restricting to 100 or 200, depending upon the expectation or the guidelines by the university. And the statistical tools, whatever the tools what you're using will have an implication. So if you're using correlation, it will have an implication. You have regression, it will have an implication. And it could be that different perspectives will have different people with different perspective. And the way of writing also will vary. And so statistical tool is one of the limitations what we're going to be having. And the last part what we have is the chapter scheme. This is going to be the last concept what you're going to be writing in the research design. And you have 6 chapters. And the first chapter was introduction. The second chapter is a review of the literature and what you're going to be covering in each one of it. In total, writing a research design should not take more than 4 to 5 pages, what I already told you. So what you're going to be covering, you need to specify it very clearly. Introduction, then review of literature, where you have taken it from and what is that you've done in the process in the chapter, what you have done. And research design, what are the concepts, what you have been covered under that. Then the profile of the company. Then you have the analysis and the interpretation and the summary of findings and conclusion. Bibliography and lectures do not come in the chapter scheme as such. So we have done with the 3 chapters, that is the introduction, review of literature, and the research design. Coming to the next is the profile of the company. Now, the profile of the company is going to be chapter 4, which is important. So this profile of the company, what you need to write is, what is the company all about? The evolution, origin of it. What is the SWOT of the company? Strength, weakness, opportunities, and the threats. The milestones, what they have gone through. What is the different departments, what they have, the flow chart of different departments. So, and what are their achievements, what they have, and what is their, depending upon the type of the topic, what you have taken. When it comes to finance, the way you write would be something more about the financial aspects of it, what you'll be covering in the profile of the company. In general, the profile of the company should not be more than 10 pages. And there will be certain pictures or certain photographs which are there regarding the company that you can put in the annexures. So do not make it a part of the profile of the company. You will be speaking about what is the type of the company, what the company is into, when they started, how many years, what are the milestones, what they have achieved, the SWOT of the company. They'll speak about the turnover of the company, the number of employees in the company, the type of the benefits offered, retention strategies. So the total overview of the company, which you're going to be getting from the website. It's not very difficult. Or you can get from the annual general meeting reports too. And what is their environmental consciousness? If you're doing something on values or something like that, even otherwise you can write about it, about environmental consciousness, what is the award, what they've got, what's the type of the CSR activities, what they've extended. But see that you don't extend beyond 10 pages about a particular company, what you're going to be writing in the profile. By looking into all these aspects, and originality is what is expected. When a work is to be done, there's no shortcut for any of them. There's no shortcut for any success. So therefore, it is very important that it should be your original work. It's not a cut, paste, and copy aspect of it. It should be something that contributes to your knowledge. You should feel happy when you hold the project book on your hands. So there should be quality, there should be authenticity. It should not be the manipulated data. It should not be just some numerics what you have given. It should be something which is, the topic is your child. The way you take care of a child, similarly, you should see that the topic has to be given at most importance, and it's a process to learn. It is not just for doing completing your academic curriculum, academic requirements, or a few marks what you would get. This is going to be the culture for the next. It is going to be the, as Sir told in the morning, it is the culture or the ecosystem what is to be created. That is nothing but the research culture to be incorporated. So it's an opportunity what you people have got. So therefore, I do say that please do your original work. Please do contact your guide, because hand holding of the guide becomes very, very important. You will not deviate from where you are supposed to go, and you'll be able to complete in a time frame, and you should keep working on it. Just think about it. So that will really give you about something what you can add to the knowledge base. You should feel happy whenever you see your project. You should feel happy that so much of hard efforts what you've put for it, and the appreciation not from the external but also the appreciation to yourself that it is your original work. So which is very, very important. It is not, we are accountable not only for what we do but how we do it. The way we are going to be doing it also plays a very, very important role. So the focus has to be emphasized on quality. So quality is one. Quality means no defect. So that's the way you need to work on it, and that really gives you the ultimate contentment. And I would like to conclude saying that when does your research start? Your research starts when you start searching. So research starts when you start searching, and that is when the research takes its momentum. And research should always be progressive in nature. It is a process of learning. I personally felt that from the day I've taken up research, I felt that I've become slightly an organized person. And you start thinking from different dimensions. It's thinking out of the box. So learning from different dimensions, learning from different people, and understanding the different perspectives. In the process of doing the research, I could network with a lot of people, and I was sometimes surprised that can there be other way to think too? So that is what research gives you all about. It tries to mold your personality. And let me tell you, it is something like a giant wheel, a roller coaster as such. At one point of time, you're on the top, you say that, oh, you're reaching the sky, you feel so happy, oh, everything is fine. But at the next point, you fall forward. But there's a joy. At the end of the day, when you have your project on your hand, when you have the degree on your hand, it really gives you an ultimate contentment. But see that you try to put your efforts, you see that you put your hard work so that you'll be able to complete it successfully with quality, as we say, because everybody reads our project, and see that the language what you use should be simple, where even a layman should be able to understand, leaving a few jargons what we use for technical writing. Otherwise, when a person reads, the person should be able to understand. So the way we normally do is that when I write a paper also, a loud reading from the other person, it helps me to understand whether I'm able to take in the right way or not. So that type of a bit of extra efforts what you need to put to see that you give the quality work. And at the outset, I would like to thank you, Professor Srinivasaya sir, the principal of the Bengaluru College, the principal of Devnali College, then the coordinators of both the institutions, and Dr. Murli sir for giving the mentor of academic research group, for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts or a drop in the ocean, the knowledge what I possess, to share with all the faculties and the students. I hope I've done justice to the topic that's given to me, and thank you everybody.
Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
It was really wonderful experience to listen to you, sharing your knowledge on the subject. Very useful, highly encouraging and inspiring our students to get into research process. You helped them really to develop insights into the subject. There is two questions. Incidentally,
Yes,
the
sir.
name of the person asking is Bhagyama also. Her name is also Bhagyama.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I'll try to answer.
Okay. Now she is asking, what is research gap?
Hmm.
how to find the research gaps.
Yes.
It is her question. Just in a capsule.
Yes, sir. Sir, research gap is where the earlier studies have not touched upon, or the dimension, a particular dimension has not been taken care of it. For example, a dimension of work, if I take work environment, one dimension of peer group influence has not been taken. Or if the work is done only in a particular sector, or only it is done based on the secondary data. There's no evidence of any empirical data which has been done. As I gave you an example of the work-life balance, it was not done on the women conductors. So that became a research gap for me. The employee engagement was done in a manufacturing company. It was not done. It was not done in service sector, and with specific reference to IT sector. So that is where we call it as a research gap.
Good.
Or any tool may not be used at times. Yeah.
She has asked one more question to give examples of probability sampling.
In case of probability sampling, where each and every sample has the likelihood of being selected, that's going to be called as probability sampling. So in that, we have the basics like the cluster sampling, what we have. A particular cluster is going to be taken into consideration, or it can be systematic sampling, or maybe on the lottery system wherein every fifth person is going to be selected. So that is the way the probability sampling is going to be looked into, or it can be taken about in case of multi-state sampling. So if I'm going to be selecting a college for doing a study, I'll be taking first the university, BNU. Under BNU University, I'll be looking into government, private, and autonomous. Under government, you have again autonomous. So bifurcating that becomes a multi-stage. Layering it down is going to be called as multi-stage sampling. So the other methods are also there. Okay. So that was the basics what they would have learned earlier. So I did not touch more upon that.
There is one Mr. Shivappa. He's asking which type of data is better to do research.
How do I understand which type of data?
That way, primary data, secondary data, he must be. Because I presume in the backdrop of this COVID effect. So
if I can answer it. Available on the net. When it comes to my suggestion, personal suggestion would be always going for the primary data if it is going to be other than the finance projects. Marketing today, the technology is advanced. One Google form, what you can do, you can reach up to multiple people. Maybe at this pandemic, they can go in for convenience sampling, or if at all the employees are data is going to be given by the company, they can accept actually them to go to the company and do the work. So therefore, they can think about the concept of freelancer project. But I would prefer, please do go by the primary data. Data, but both of it has its own advantage, disadvantage. My personal suggestion and my experience says that going by the primary data is always better.
Gotcha. She is asking, statement of problems can we represent in table form? I am not exactly.
No, sir. Statement of problem is never. Techniques what we use, though I've made it in the tabular form, it cannot be shown in a tabular form. It should be always done in a paragraph form. And only the companies, if they've taken 10 companies or so, you just want to show the turnovers, the number of employees, that cannot be put in the sentence form. So that you can show in a tabular form. The statement of problem should not be shown in the tabular form, is according to me.
Okay. So how to classify dependent and independent variables?
The one which has influence on the other is going to be called as the dependent variable.
With examples, they are asking for some examples.
Examples, okay. Salary as a motivator. So salary becomes an independent factor and motivation becomes a dependent factor. So this is one. If I can think about, just give me a second's time. I'm sorry. the present financial status, the present economic independence having an impact on investing on insurance. So the economic factor becomes independent and the investment becomes the dependent factor.
I'm sure the students have got the point with your explanation.
Yes.
So one more question. So the same question is repeated. Which is better, primary or secondary? Already you have answered that question.
Yes.
So it is attended already. Any more questions from students? I'm so happy that today's session, the opening session, has been so successful, and Professor Bhagya has given full justice to the topic, and with her sincere efforts and very enriched knowledge. I'm available. Yes.
If somebody requires, you can share with them.
So because of some streaming issues, they are requesting for PPTs.
Yeah, I will share that with you, sir.
So nice of you, so generous of you.
It's a pleasure to do so, sir.
The chat box.
Okay, sir.
Please refresh. Please refresh a study of source, which you told top 10 references.
Sources of study. One is the primary source. The other one is the secondary source. Is that what the question is? Primary sources.
Top 10 references she is referring to.
Sir, that just give me some time so that I can get back to by tomorrow's session. I'll be attending tomorrow's session. I'll share that with you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll do that, sir. In which area, if they tell me, I can pull that data for them.
I will just try to get connected and today is first day of the 3-day workshop to close. And once again, I heartily thank Professor Bhagya for her resourceful and enriching sharing of her knowledge and developing her sincere efforts to develop insights amongst the students to get into the process of research. So with these words, I thank Professor Bhagya, and I also thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor who inaugurated today's work session, and our principals, Professor Srinivasaya and Professor Shivshankarappa, and also thank Dr. S. Muralidhar sir, so who has been backbone of this 3-day exercise by providing all logistical and resources in the form of resource persons, and providing us some inputs also regarding organizing and conduct. And I thank him. I also thank my colleagues, faculty members who participated in today's session and made it a wonderful experience. And I thank my fellow PG coordinator, Professor Satyanarayana Gowda from GFGC Devanahalli. So with these words, I would like to thank one and all, and we shall conclude today's session. We'll meet tomorrow again at 11 a.m. for second session, wherein Dr. Sairam A will be from Vemakal College, will be presenting on analysis and interpretation of data. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much, sir.
Achha.